Good day and welcome to our new lesson under Module 1.3 Investigative Goals, Importance, Methods, and Principles. The module covers the goals of criminal investigation, the importance, methods, as well as the principles of criminal investigation. In this presentation, it is expected that you should be able to describe the goals of criminal investigation, identify its importance, apply the methods, and of course, describe the principles of criminal investigation. The goals of criminal investigation. Criminal investigation is the collection of facts in order to accomplish its threefold aims. First is to identify the guilty party. Investigation aims to identify the guilty party because it aims to specifically determine the principal, the accomplice, and accessory liability of those involved in the commission of the crime. Second, to locate the guilty party. Investigation aims to locate the guilty party for the purpose of applying arrest and prosecution of the alleged suspect. Finally, to provide evidence of guilt of the suspect. It is because investigation aims to ensure conviction during the prosecution. The importance of criminal investigation. It is important that criminal investigation be initiated for each crime in order to achieve the following. Number 1, to determine whether or not a crime has been committed. So it is important to conduct investigation in order to determine if an act qualifies a crime. So therefore, investigator must establish the elements of the crime. Second, to identify and arrest the suspect. In here, the investigation wanted to let the criminal be held criminally responsible on the commission of the act. Third, to provide the prosecution with evidence necessary to support conviction, and that is to ensure the winning of conviction. Finally, to recover stolen property is another reason why criminal investigation is very important, and aside from that, for the purpose as well of reparation of damage as a consequence of criminal act. Now let's talk about the methods of identification of suspect. Commonly, we have confession and admission. Now, how they differ from one another? Confession is defined under Section 29 of the Rule 130 Rules of the Court provides that confession is the declaration of an accused expressly acknowledging his guilt of the charge. In short, it is the acknowledgement of being guilty on the part of the suspect for the crime charged or having committed the same. On the other hand, admission, in other words, is to acknowledge personal know-how on the part of the suspect regarding the existence of fact which is material to the issue. Now, the question is, how can we obtain confession and admission? The answer is, through interrogation we can obtain the same. But what is really interrogation? As defined within our slide, interrogation is a skillful questioning of a suspect or a person who is normally expected to be reluctant considering that they know the facts about the crime charged or the matters being investigated. Now, how can we ensure that the process of interrogation has no legal criticisms? The answer is that, along with interrogation, constitutional rights of the person under custodial investigation must be adhered, and these are the right to self-incrimination, right to defend himself with the assistance of a counsel, the application of the Miranda Doctrine, and the initiation of a waiver which shall be in writing and signed personally by the subject in the presence of his counsel. Otherwise, the said waiver shall be null and void and of no effect. Now, another method of identification of suspect is through eyewitness testimony. Eyewitness testimony is very important considering that if a person personally witnessed the commission of the crime, it may help to identify the suspect. But the question is, how competent is our witness? How can we ensure his qualification? For example, can a blind man who personally witnessed the commission of the crime be qualified to testify as to the identity of the suspect? Then the answer is provided under Section 18, Rule 130 of the Rules of Court, which provides the witness qualification. As stated, all persons who, having organs of sense, can perceive, and in perceiving, can make known their perception to others, he be a witness. Another method of identification of suspect is through circumstantial evidence. In here, the suspect can be identified through inferences which comes from indirect or circumstantial evidence. The very nature of circumstantial evidence, it must be noted that it implies fact but does not prove the fact in issue. Example, the suspect's gun at the site of shooting does not prove the suspect was there. In other words, if the gun, which is the murder weapon, is not associated with the suspect or the murderer, it may be hard for investigation to prove directly that the latter is guilty, and very hard for him to deny his defense on the matters in dispute. So therefore, circumstantial evidence must be corroborated with a direct or material evidence. Circumstantial evidence is inferred through the following. First is motive. Motive, in other words, is what drives the suspect from triggering the act. Another one is opportunity. Opportunity is a circumstance or a physical occurrence being exploited on the part of the suspect to perform the act. Finally, we have the intent. Intent, in other words, is the full knowledge or awareness of the suspect on the consequence or possibilities of his criminal act. So as we have noticed, all of the foregoing are just inferences or mental phenomena which can only be given life via corroboration with direct or material evidence. However, the same are very essential as far as investigation is concerned. Another important method of identifying suspect is through associative evidence. In here, physical evidence plays the very significant role because it can associate or link to the identity of suspect. But the question is, how can we treat this physical evidence? What do we need to do? In here, we need forensic science and forensic expert so that this mute but eloquent physical evidence will make sense. Furthermore, we have tracing evidence and corpus delicti evidence as methods identifying suspect. First is tracing evidence. Talking about tracing evidence, it refers to that the said evidence may assist the investigator to establish the whereabouts or location of the suspect for the purpose of identification and arrest as well. On the other hand, corpus delicti evidence refers to all the physical evidence present at the crime scene which are essential in crime scene reconstruction. And through reconstruction process, it provides knowledge as to manner of commission, the patterns, especially those coming from repeat offenders. Also, it sustains the proof on the elements of the crime and the seriousness of the act based on the damage left. However, all these inferences once again will come to realize with the aid of scientific principles and forensic expertise. Finally, we have the last part of the presentation, which is all about the basic principles in investigation. And in proving the guilt of the accused in court, the following principles must be adhered: that the fact of the existence of the crime must be established, and it can be done through crime scene investigation with the process of the so-called crime scene reconstruction. Another principle is that the accused must be identified and associated with the crime scene. And through associative evidence, we can do. Another principle is that competent and credible witness must be available. And through the help of an expert and an eyewitness testimony, we can ensure that suspects may be identified through this competent and credible witness. Another is that physical evidence must be appropriately identified, and with the help of forensic science, we can surely treat properly those evidences. It must be noted that the investigator in conducting investigation must know by heart the elements of a specific crime in order to ensure the winning of investigation as well as its prosecution in the court. All the contents are derived from the following references, and to finally end with the presentation, it is expected with hope that you could able to absorb the important details as far as the module content is concerned. For some questions, feel free to connect our GC or just PM via any other means. Once again, thank you and good day.